Okay. So let me dismiss this. So SQLite, how to interact with it and so on, right? SQLite, as you know, it's a SQL. It's an ACID database system or DBMS. It is the same as the SQL which you are using with SQL Server. It's actually the same thing. Everything is almost identical, except it is just a single file. I think right now we are learning how to run before how to walk, because right now you don't know how to write to a file or do file operations, but hopefully later on in the semester we will do that for sure, writing and saving to a file and stuff like that, and I'll show you how that actually work. But there's one more side of the story, which is like Dennis already have shown you how to import the entity framework, how to get things done, like get some stuff into the database and out of the database and stuff like that, using the ORM or object relational mappers. If you're going to be a full stack developer, if and when you're going to be actually doing almost exactly the same thing, where you just simply like having DB sets and or more or less something similar to it, and then you just simply use entity framework just to save stuff into the database and retrieve stuff from database and project them on the screen. It's going to be pretty much like once you get used to it, it's just like once you get the gist of it, I would say, like once you understand how things can be done or implemented, you just simply know, and you know that you get that knowledge and you just simply go ahead and just keep writing code. There are relatively there are no challenges anymore. I think so, or at least from what I've seen. Obviously it's okay. It's kind of wrong in that regard, but generally speaking, the this kind of CRUD's operations, so create, update, delete operations on data is actually relatively like common, and it is nothing. There's you get like interesting business problems to solve, but once they are solved, this is it. So why we are actually using SQLite though, instead of having a SQL Server, and which you guys are using, I think, in Introduction to Databases. I think you have Introduction to Databases right now. You had it, or you're having it, right?
We have it, but we're using Microsoft Access for now.
Okay. So Microsoft Access for now, and then SQL Server later, hopefully.
Yes.
So SQL Server will be almost identical to SQLite, except it's running on a service on your machine, and it can be actually deployed on a server, and you can actually like access it online. For example, you can put that server machine like somewhere online on the internet, and then you can communicate with it using a connection string. Right now, the connection string which you have, we usually hide it in the app config, and we kept it in here. I think Dennis was keeping it here, for example, to point to a file on a hard drive, right? This one will not be pointing to a hard drive. It will be like your connection string will be pointing to an IP address, or if it was an internal network, or it's going to be pointing to a or pointing, for example, to a server address, practically speaking, right, with a port number and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's going to be actually quite similar. This is going to be the closest thing to it. However, a long time ago, when C# 1.0 came out, I remember clearly this. We didn't have back then ORMs, so we had to write pure SQL commands in C# and execute them on SQL Server. Now, obviously, this is not a good idea in terms of general applications, but I'm going to show you another side of the story. So right now, you're actually like Dennis have shown you how to create SQLite DBs, right? And how to create the file and then add the tables in there and stuff. I'm going to show you actually another side of the story is how you can actually generate all that stuff. So you can actually generate the database on the fly, generate the tables on the fly, do insert and update and delete all on the fly, right? It's going to be very primitive code. It's just simply to drive the point across, just to show you what actually Entity Frameworks is doing for you, practically speaking, right? So that's the objective here. All right, so regarding app config, since we are here, actually, let me show you a small trick which can be useful for you. And it's not tied to Windows Forms alone. It's actually like for everything, I think. So I will just simply put a button here. And I'm going to call this btn fetch. And then here's going to be fetch. All right. Oops. Yeah, I made a mistake. btn fetch. And this one is fetch. Okay. And yeah, I'll just simply like keep this form frm main. And this is going to be my playground or something like that, because it's basically our playground right now. All right, so config. All right, so imagine that you would like to grab something from here. How this is actually possible? It's actually relatively easy. Actually, not relatively. It's actually super easy. In fact, what you can do is you go into the app config. Within the configuration, and this is, by the way, a fresh Windows Forms. I didn't do anything other than file, create new Windows Forms application. And you have app config all the time attached, I think, with all projects, I think. So what you can do is you could have something like app settings, and it's actually a reserved keyword, as you can see here. And within the app settings, you can right now start adding key value pair information. So you could, for example, say add key equals to my stuff, for example, or faculty name, let's say. And then you're going to have value is going to equal to, for example, fit, let's say. And then you have add key, for example, which is going to be IP address, for instance. And you're going to have a value of, for example, let's say that you have a server you would like to access and you have a fixed IP address you would like to give here. Obviously, I think you shouldn't save it here, I think, but I'm just giving it there as a as just an example here. I don't know what 158. Like what 6.5.100 and I don't know 30, whatever it is. So let's say that you have an IP address that looks like this, okay? And then you would like to access this information. You would love to get this. You would love to give this, right? So how can we do that? A way to do this is probably I need to rename that file. Let's see, frm main. Okay, because I see the name of the file is not the same as the class. And right now, what you can do is just simply refer to something which is called the configuration manager. So you have configuration manager dot app settings, right? And let me just do an import using system.configuration. Oh, there we go. Dot app settings. And then you can, for example, like get what you want. So you can say give the key. So either by index, which is going to be, for example, 0 is going to give you the first one, 1 is going to give you the second one. Or you can actually provide the name, the string name, right? So I would like to get a faculty name, I guess I was actually writing it that way, dot to string. Okay. So I'm right now getting the app setting, which actually will return to me an app settings section, right, object. Because right now, let's see. Yeah, it's actually returning to me a string, I guess. But let's actually show this as a message box, right? So show this in a message box. So 5. Okay, that took some time. Pitch, and you see here, it's written here fit, right? So this is one way of actually retrieving this. Let's see. I really wonder. Yeah, right. It should be like this, because hang on. Yeah, so it's fit. All right, perfect. Now, message box.show actually say configuration manager dot app settings of 1. So right now I'm getting the second one, right? So if this is 0, this is 1, right? And I'm just gonna hit a semicolon right now, and then if I hit F5, right now I'll get 2 message boxes, right? So one is gonna be for fit, and the second one is gonna be the IP address, right? So this is one way of how you could access whatever is inside the app config. The main thing here is that you have to put it really correctly in its position, like in a correct place, right? You don't put it in a different tag, for example. You can create your own custom tags, by the way, because this is XML. You can actually create your own custom tags if you want to. However, in order for C# to detect them, you have to write a specific code behind a bunch of classes, like 2 or 3 classes, and a couple of, like, it's actually like a relatively simple code you need to write down in order for you to implement your own custom tags if your project needs to, right? But it's actually good to know that it's possible. So I will leave that for you actually to explore. But for the time being, for all our intents and purposes, this is just enough to know. This is actually quite useful, let's say, in case you would like to save certain configuration, like, as I already have mentioned, like, what is the IP address of certain place you would like to hunt for, or where is a certain file location, let's say, like, for example, the Sqlite file. It might be, for example, all the time will be beside the executable, let's say, and you want it to be, you would like to get the connection string from there. Actually, connection string will not be in the app settings, though. It will be, in fact, under, I think it should be under connection string. So if you have something like this, connection strings, then you're going to have add name, and then it's going to be like DLMS path, let's say. It's going to be named that way. And provider name is going to be like system.data.sqlite. And then a connection string will be having a data source equals to, well, it'll be without spaces because I don't know if it will complain to this. And then I'm going to call this dilms.db, let's say, right? And obviously I need to provide the, whoops, not here. And obviously I need to provide the version. So version equals to 3 because we are using actually SQLite 3, okay? And right now, if I save this, what you can do is having a message box dot show configuration manager dot. It will not be right now app settings. It will be connection strings, and I could actually say connection strings of 0. Hang on. I think I should provide a more info. So dot, let's see. So this will return a connection string section dot. You can actually have like many of those things, but let's say actually to string. Let's see what it actually will give us. I think it should give us not this one, should give us something else. So this, and it says SQL Express integrated, right? And this is one of the things that are not being written, but it's by default there. So the second one is going to be the one which I've added. And let me grab this. So it's going to be like fit this, and right now you get, here's the connection string, right? So data source is equal to blah blah blah, right? So that's the. Let's see. Can I have connection string provider name? Yeah, you can get all of these interesting information if you want to. But basically speaking, this is how to get data from your app config if you want to manually by hand. Okay. And if you save some data in here, it's also up to you. And this is actually, I think it is distributed along with the application. Like when you commit it somewhere or when you actually give this in production, this is actually also always attached with your application. So it's actually a nice place to save some specific configuration for your app. All right, now with all this interesting tricks going on, what we can do right now is actually try to play with the idea of how can we generate how we can generate a SQLite database, right? So probably I'm gonna see if I need to. I'm actually like thinking, do I actually need to have do I actually need to have a yeah, probably I need it. System.data.sqlite. So let me actually import that while we are at it. So I'm going to go and browse Lite. Not the core, definitely. Hang on. System. There we go. Perfect. So there you go. So this one is the one which I would like to import, which will give me the SystemLite core. It should give me as well the Entity Framework 6, right? SQLite Entity Framework and link as well. So okay, this totally fine. I'm gonna get this one. How many? Oh, okay, it's almost 10 million. By the way, you could use SQLite in case you know for sure that you have a very like a small application or relatively small application that is going to be deployed to one PC and it's going to be used on that machine only, and you don't need to have anything backed up on the internet or something like that. So you don't have any. Yeah, perfect. Okay, you don't have any. Yeah, fine. I mean, it doesn't need to have like it doesn't have a server side or anything. It's just kept on the local machine. So this is one way you're gonna actually like use a SQLite application. I've actually like encountered such projects before. You have, for example, let's say a librarian who wants to keep, as an example, I mean, you can have a librarian who wants to keep like their, for example, bookkeeping or for example, who actually borrowed which books, let's say in a library. You can actually make an application that simply like runs on their local machine because they don't want to or don't need to expose that on the internet, for example, right? Or don't need to push that online because there was, for example, no funds or there is no need for it. So you might, for example, use some tracker like that, right? Phone book, maybe. I mean, it's really like it's actually very good for like small to medium applications that runs on a single machine, I would say, right? Okay, so let's see. In order for you to, you would like to create, for example, a database from scratch, what we could do is create DB and btn create DB, okay? And then when we would like to create a database, you see, you used Entity Framework in order to map stuff out, and you can refer to Dennis's video materials for that. This one is different. In fact, this technique, which I'm going to show you, is in fact used, by the way, and it is used in if you are having, for example, if you are creating a CMS or something like that. So if you are trying to create content management systems like Wix or like or WordPress or something like that. I don't know how many of you have heard about WordPress, for example, right? So you have, whenever somebody creates a page or creates an account or creates something in that area, they actually generate tables and generate database like stuff on the fly, okay? But this is kind of a very specific applications, and you're going to see that it's actually quite possible to do by hand. It's just a little bit of work. And at least back then, back in the day, when we were working at least with SQL Server, we had just only the driver to communicate with SQL Server. It's called, I think it's called SQL Server Driver. And if you would like to communicate with Oracle database, we had something which is called the ODBC driver. Hopefully none of you will work with legacy applications and have to use ODBC drivers and stuff like that. Anyway, so let's talk about how to do certain connections, how to initialize a connection. Maybe I can actually create a small class to do this for us, so we can be a little bit more comfy. Add new class. This is going to be manual DB connection. I'm going to call it that way. I know it's a stupid name, but okay, fine. Public class for now. And I'm going to have a public Sqlite, call it that way, connection. And I'm going to call this connection, right? And this requires to import system.data Sqlite. And I'm going to have a public, not the command this time, but manual. I'm going to have a constructor, which will, what it will do, it will just simply like once I construct this, it will generate a file for me. So I can just simply say connection equals to, oh wait, did I get a nice recommendation for this? Oh, perfect. And right now I'm going to have a data source. Let's be just safe. Data source equals to mydb or db.db. Okay. And that's pretty much it. So I'm saying that I would like to make a connection to that file. Okay. Which is the same thing as that you are using Entity Framework in order to communicate with databases. It does this actually for you. But right now we don't have that file generated. That file doesn't exist. So what I can do is I can say SQLite connection, or yeah, why not SQLite connection dot create file. And right now, I need to create that file. So I'm just going to say it's going to be mydb.db. And obviously, this is going to be a bad idea. If the file already exists, it will just simply override the thing. So what we can do, we could utilize, and we're going to discuss this later in the semester, how to deal with files. you have a very handy tool, which is, man, this is awesome. It just immediately said what I wanted to find. mydb.db. We're gonna actually play with this later on, like how to deal with files. But right now, here's a nifty tool. It says like, if a certain file exists, then just simply say, if it doesn't exist, sorry, you see this exclamation mark? So if it doesn't exist, just please generate this for me. However, if it does exist, just do not touch it, right? So that's the most important part. And that's pretty much it. One more thing I would like to implement, though, is going to be the iDisposable interface. And for the sole reason that because I would like to, you know what, how about I show it to you why I'm going to do this so you can see the problem. Don't need this anymore. And whenever I would like to create a database, I just simply click that button, right? So I can just simply say DB connection, manual DB connection. All right. Yeah, and yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. Or yeah, because in the constructor, I just simply create this thing. I'm gonna put here var, actually. No need to type this twice. How about we actually also, for the fun of it, so let me just simply push this here, push this here, and in data, just add a data grid view, all right, just for the kick of it. All right, so let me just push this right there. Okay. Now, maybe I'll make a little, so let me put fetch config on the side because I would like to add multiple buttons. I'll just simply keep adding them like one by one here for every stuff I would like to do. So let's actually give this one a try. So I'm gonna actually run this. And if I had to actually create DB, you see something happened here, right? But what we can do is show in Explorer and oops, debug. And as you can see here, it's right there. It's right here, my DB, right? And if I actually try to get SQLite browser, if I drag this here, it has 0 tables, 0 indices, 0 views, and 0 triggers. So it actually can be opened by the DB SQLite browser. So it's actually quite simple. But we created actually the file. Now the question comes here is how we can like generate the proper database, right? So it's all nice and dandy, but useless. So let's actually go ahead and have this connection maybe like Okay, so let it be like so for now, and I'm gonna have main here button. I'm just gonna oops. And right here, I'm gonna have a btn create db, right? Oh, sorry. This is actually create database. Create db file. So it actually generates the file, right? So just to be clear on this one. And this will create an actual DB. So btn create. Yeah, that's the problem. We have already created DB. Hang on. And this create DB file. And this is going to be, I'm just renaming stuff right now so we can create DB file. Okay. In fact, you could even get rid of this part. And you could even have more fun and do this. Right? So you don't need to like, it's a one-liner. There's no need to, we can write it in a lambda expression or shorthand expression, whatever we'd like to call it. And right now we have btn create db. Okay. So if I run this right now, we can do this. And to be honest with you, this is what we were doing back in the day in C# 1.0. We didn't have ORMs, object relational mappers, or any of that stuff. We had to write this by hand. So we actually did the SQLite, for example, equals to new manual DB connection, right? Now, when you say using means that once you are done with whatever you were doing, it will actually like dispose the object. So it says, okay, use the object, you are done with it, we actually kick it out and dispose it, right? So that's the thing. And usually we like when you are working with databases, you open a connection. Once you are done, you close it. You don't keep it opened. Okay, so that's the important part. However, here it's actually complaining. It says this object or this type has to be convertible to Y disposable. That means that this class doesn't implement I disposable. So we can actually like implement that right away. So I disposable, right? And if you implement the I disposable interface, it has just only one method. And the cool thing here is I don't need to work on disposing manually some unmanaged resource. So I don't need to play with a lot of memory management because the connection itself just needs to be closed and just simply disposed of and nothing more, right? Obviously, this is a bad idea. Like this is very bad implementation of dispose, by the way, just to be clear here. A proper way to implement I disposable, you can find it on MSDN. Very detailed, very beautiful. Go ahead and read it. For now, this is just a demo code rather than a production code. So we are learning here, not making production stuff. Now, SQLite.connection dot open. That's the most important part. You need to open the connection when you are trying to communicate with SQL. Again, please remember that when you are using Entity Framework, if you remember with Dennis, you never seen, hey, let me open a connection, let me close a connection. This is right now completely manual stuff. And this is exactly what Entity Framework does for you. It literally opens the connection by hand. And then actually it generates queries for you. It's very important to understand that Entity Framework is, or object relational mappers in general, they are actually being used for, I think, medium-sized applications at most. You cannot find it, for example, I think I haven't seen it in bank applications. I think stock market, definitely it will never happen to use Entity Framework. Because mostly it's a very, if you would like to write a very efficient code that runs in very, very fast, Entity Framework sucks immediately at this. It generates the ugliest and the worst SQL code ever, but it does the job. It gets the job done, and people do not have a problem with it, obviously, in production, but it has a certain limit where you shouldn't be using it in very intense applications. So please keep that in mind. But I think like how often you're going to encounter this, I really don't know. It really depends on the project which you're going to be working on in the future. But mostly like for heavy intense applications, you have a database developer who exposes to you functions. I think in Introduction to Databases, you're going to see, or you have seen, I don't know, you're going to see stored procedures and functions, which you can call them directly from your code. And these going to be like this kind of code. The database developer is going to write a very, very optimized code that doesn't kill the server. So just to be clear here, your code with Entity Framework in a heavy environment will kill the server. That's why people are just simply like having like, okay, let us scale on multiple servers and stuff. But yeah, it's another story. So if you have worked with SQL, which I think you did so far, you know how to create a table. So create table. Let's say it's going to be phone book. So it's going to be phones, let's say, which has, I don't know, number, which is going to be integer. And honestly, we have like, I mean, we usually created the database by hand, but right now I'm showing you how to create, like, to auto-generate it, but usually people are creating it in SQL Server or SQLite and access it from here, but I wanted to show you the whole process. ID is going to be integer, primary key. Maybe I'll need to add to it auto increment as well. So auto increment. All right. So this is basically your query or statement, or whatever you would like to call it right now. And then what we do, we create something which is called a SQLite command. Sorry, should be like this, SQLite command. And again, this is new SQLite command. And I'm going to have a query, which is this query, right? And it will use the connection, which is SQLite.connection, right? And then once you are done, oh, you see it's actually also, yeah, Visual Studio 2022 is cool regarding recommendations. Once it's done, you just simply execute the command. Now, obviously, once you are reaching here, like, it will immediately call this, which says close. If you didn't close, I think it will not. Oh, yeah, actually, it will work once you execute the query, but it will not. But the connection will be opened if you don't say just close it. Okay. So if you open the connection again, it will actually give you an error right away. So let's actually test this. So let's see. So if the file already exists, so we will not create it again. But since it exists, it will just not. It will just simply skip this part. And right now we'll jump into creating the table, right? So let's see. So this is creating the actual DB, right? And if I go, hopefully here, and the DB file, I'll just simply grab, give me a sec, and I'll just simply drag it here. You see, I got phones already, right? And I got ID and number. And if you check, actually, if you modify the table, you get like all the SQL data. It's actually a primary key and it's auto increment, right? So since it's actually primary key, it's going to be automatically not null anyway. So yeah, so right now we have created a like phones table, right? Now the cool thing here is you could actually right now add records in there. So we could go ahead. Oh, come on. Okay. I need to have a very steady hand not to move. I'll just simply say add test records. I'll just simply expand that button right there. I'll double click. Oh boy, I forgot. Okay, let me undo this. And let me name this properly, btn add test. Okay. And what we will do here is we're gonna need to insert. And I think, again, since you already learned SQL or the basics of SQL, we could even, let me show you even another flavor of this. So let me take this out even, right? And let me take this out as well. So let me show you how this is, how this works when it comes to, I mean, you already have this, you already have seen this in SQL. So in your introduction to databases course, so insert into phones, and then you say number, because ID is auto increment. You don't need to touch it, right? Values at number, right? And then you create your SQL command, which is going to rely on the connection, right? And then right now, what we need to do is say command. This is another flavor of it. You could actually insert the command with a query here, but I wanted to show you the other one. Command text equals to query. So this is another way of setting it. Okay. And then command.parameters .add with value. And then right now, you're going to refer to this, exactly this. Okay. And then you have to say what is going to be the value. So the value is going to be the number which you'd like to put in. You could actually like have this from a text box. You could have it manually inserted if you want to. So there you go. I can insert it manually. Again, maybe let's say like this. Okay. By the way, the integer has a certain size, do not exceed it. So if I actually type a lot of other numbers, it might actually crash. It will say, give me an error. It cannot insert. All right, and then execute non-query, meaning that I'm not expecting something back. I just only expect that I just simply send the stuff, right? Int will actually return to me number of rows affected or inserted, okay? If you would like to know if the operation is successful, it will give you an integer larger than 1. It says number of rows affected 1, let's say, right? And then if I hit F5, so we already created the database, right? So we would like to insert the test record. So I'm going to hit this. And if I close this, and let's see, I'm going to grab SQLite again. So if I actually browse data, you see it's actually here, right? So you have a number here, you have an ID here. Probably because how I actually created the database, probably the order of columns is weird, but I mean it's not an issue for us right now, so I don't care right now about this. All right, so right now we could insert a record. In fact, we could have fun with this. We could you could do something like this. And I will eliminate this. I will eliminate this. And I will eliminate this, right? And I'm just simply reusing just the command again and again and again. And then, for example, I will have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And this is, let's say, 9, 8, 7. And then 4, 3, 2, 1. And this is it. So right now we're going to have like 3 phone numbers, let's say, actually including a repetition. So if I run this again and add test records, what you're going to have is, I need to grab again this DB thingy. And if I browse data, you get 2 of those and then one of each, right? So that's the thing, which is perfect. Let's see if I actually keep this on, if I'm allowed to do that. I think it might actually forbid me from writing like this. Also, let me show you this. So if I run this again, right now I'm going to have more data, or sorry, dot to string. Oh wait, hang on. Let me. Yeah, fine. Why not? Let me just run this, and I will add all records. You see, number of rows affected 1, because I actually did this for this guy. If I actually did it for each one of those, it will actually give me like all number of rows affected all the time, like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, because I'm executing it one by one, right? And obviously, if I go here and if I refresh this, right now I get even multiple of those, right? So that's it. I'm gonna actually like leave this here for you just as a reference, and moving forward. So right now we know how to do insert. And again, please remember, Entity Framework really does this. It just simply generates this code, generates this text, instead of you writing it. this is what the ORM's job is, to generate SQL code for you, besides the other part, which I'm going to discuss in a minute. So we have the insert. Now, shall we update just for fun? So let's say you would like to update. Where's my button? We have here btn, and I'm actually gonna like update something arbitrarily from text. I mean, obviously you can right now, you can click on a data grid view and select one row and then get its ID updated like you do already, like with Entity Framework, as Dennis already have shown you. So it's exactly the same concept, except you are just simply typing manual code. And I will actually I'm gonna actually like copy maybe this all together. Yeah, and close the brackets. And right now it's not gonna be insert, it's gonna be update phones, and then I'm just gonna say set number equals to at number, where ID equals to at, well, without spaces, at ID, and that's pretty much it. And now we create the single connection, we create the query, we add with parameters, so add with value, so at ID, and then I'm gonna grab, for example, the second one, so ID2, okay? So if I go here, I would like to erase this one, okay? Or update this one, sorry, not erase. Delete is gonna come up next. And I need to set its number, command parameters dot add with value. And here is gonna be at number. And right now I can actually update this. So maybe I'm just gonna, hang on, let me just make sure of the count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that's pretty much it, I think. I'll of course execute non-query, and that's it, I think. So let me hit F5 here. And let me show you this. So if I actually hit update right now, it doesn't complain, which is perfect. And if I go back to my database, this should be flipping to a bunch of 2s, which is right now happened, which is perfect. So I just simply refresh this and it's done. Okay, so let me stop this. So right now we know how update works. Let us actually delete something, I think. So let us delete. So this is going to be btn delete. And this is going to be delete a record, and it's going to be a random record. I'm just going to hard code the thing. You guys can actually write like when you pick up from a data grid view something, you can actually do that. So delete from phones where you'd like to delete by ID, right? So you create a SQL command, and then your query you have to set, and then I will delete, actually, let me see here. I would like to delete, let's say, ID 4. So I'm just going to say here 4, which is going to be whatever you select from your data grid view, right? And I don't need this. Whoops. And I don't need this. So an execute non-query. Okay. Because it will return to me number of rows affected. And let me see here. So if I hit delete, okay, so it actually did that for me. Now if I hit X, refresh this, so this number 4 should disappear, which did. So I have 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. So ID 4 has been deleted, which is perfect. And right now, we move on. So I could actually have one more thing, which is select all, which is the most famous, like give me all the stuff in the record, which you already have done, like give me all the students. It is exactly the same thing, select all the things. So this is going to be btn select all, and this guy is going to be select all. And please remember that you could write a SQL code, like when you construct tables, you could say this table has a relationship with the other table, has a relationship with the other tables, and so on and so forth. You could actually do all of that when you are generating your database, by the way. So I'm just going to grab all this and just paste that here. And I will show you update right now, or sorry, select star. So select from phones, which is, this is sometimes the most dreaded thing you could ever do, but it really depends on what you are doing. The command is going to be the query, which again, you could have passed it here, by the way. So let me, I mean, you could have just simply passed it here, but I'm just simply showing you multiple flavors of stuff so you know about its existence. And right now, since you are actually having select all, you don't need this anymore, right? Because you don't have, for example, select star from phones where. But of course, you shouldn't say select stars from X where, and then this, I think you should say where X select from, right? Because star is going to be a bad idea to do a global select. I'm not going to delve in deep into query optimization here. However, here, right now, it's not going to be command execute non-query. I need the result back, actually. So var result equals to command dot execute reader. This is one is different, right? And an execute reader actually will return to me a Sqlite data reader. Okay. Now here's the interesting part. I'm gonna need to create a list. Var lst query result is going to equal to new list of oh, come on. Probably I don't have this thing imported, isn't it? Phone. Now, obviously, I don't have a phone class. So this first thing first. So please generate me the collection and generate me the phone class right here, because I'm too lazy to go to another file. And I think I'm going to have a public int ID and a public int number, because both of them were ints. Obviously, if one of them is string, you don't need to parse it. But since this is going to be, both of them are going to be strings, you need to work on it. So while result.read, perfect. I'm going to actually say lst query result.add. I'm just going to add a new phone where my ID is going to equals to, wow, this is perfect, actually. Man, this is good. Okay, so, but not actually get integer. It says it should be get value. But this is perfect. Honestly, I don't know if this is, I don't know if get int will give me what I need. But yeah, I'm just gonna try this. It should be like, I should get the value rather than the integer, but I don't know if, well, let's see this one. As an int, no, I need the value actually. Yeah, I need, what is field value though? As a type. Nah, just, yeah. Yeah. Maybe I can experiment this on my own later on. Get value of 0, so give me the first column. So ID is actually the first column, isn't it? Or maybe the opposite, I cannot remember anymore. Dot to string. Hopefully I didn't make a mistake, I don't know. Let's see. Get value actually returns an object, and I need to cast this to an int. And this needs to be casted as well to an int, because I'm actually get value. Let's see if I'm actually going to experiment with you live here. And while we are at it, we could say data grid view1, data grid view1 dot data source equals to null, and that data grid view1 dot data source equals to lst query result. Okay, so let's see what will happen. So select all. Whoopsie. Which cost is not valid? Yeah, probably I shouldn't do that. Or yeah, I cannot cast it that way. Probably I need to say just simply ent.parse. I mean, again, this is not production code, so I'm not going to be making a fuss out of this. Maybe I'm missing something obvious. So ent.parse to string. And yeah, F5, let's see. Select all. Yeah, you see, I just simply inverted it because in the database, ID is the second column and the number is the first column, right? So so I need to like invert this back. So let me just put this back like this is 1 and this is 0. I could have actually avoided this problem if I have created this in the opposite way, right? But in anyway, let's see. So if I say select all, I get the IDs and I get the numbers, right? And the cool thing here is I can parse this. I can actually select any one of those and convert it into a phone class, like the same thing which you do with, you know, with the students and stuff, which Dennis actually have shown you so far. So yeah, I think there's one more thing I would like to test while you guys are here. Let's see. Get field value. I would like actually to see if this will work. I actually haven't tested it. It's been actually it's been years since I looked into this. Get value, get field value, which should be an integer, and I need this to be 1. And this is gonna be, let's see here. Get field value, which is gonna be integer of 0, right? Hopefully. So let's see if this will work. Is not valid. Yeah, probably I need to check out the documentation. What does this mean? Like get field value. Probably I'm doing something wrong, completely wrong. No. Interesting. So get field value as a type. All right. So I'll just simply undo this and just keep the old code in. Right. So now you know how to do update, delete, and doing all that stuff. If I actually grab Dennis's project right now, which I've got like from the GitHub repo, if you actually like go and hit start and look at the debug log, you see this? This is actually generated by what is called by Entity Framework, actually. Let's see if I can actually get something like, oh, student. Let's see if I will be able to see this. Resume will be, okay, and all right, so let's see whatever it is. And oh, cool, generated stuff for me too, which is fine. And yeah, whatever. Back to you on such. Let's see. Can I clear this first? If not, I will actually see if I can dig up this info. Oh, right. Let's see. I'm gonna pick up a random image. Do I have any random image? Actually, keep one for random testing. Hopefully. Yeah, it's freaking annoying right now. I need to find an image. How about a normal map? Why not? Actually, it's a normal flow map. Doesn't matter. So save now. And yeah, it doesn't show here. Hang on. Let's see. I think somewhere in db dot. I think I can do log. Let's see. Not this. Give me a minute here. I would like to check. Yeah, actually, this is correct. So db dot database dot log equals to s goes to, for example, or debug goes to system.diagnostics.debug write line, and then I'll just simply write that down. Okay, so let's see if I even like push that right here. Let's see. Because it's actually based on the context. So yeah, right, I need to just grab a picture again, which is gonna be another normal map. And then I'm gonna name something else. And this time is gonna be, yeah, fine by me, everything. Let's see. There we go. So right now it actually gives me the select from part, but it doesn't give me the rest of the inserts. Probably when we get a student, so actually probably when we save a student or do some complex operations, you could actually see like what it exactly does. So this one is for the select. It has been generated. But I cannot. As much as I would love actually to see the insert, actually inserting one-to-many relationships and stuff like that, it will actually give you even more, even crazier database, like kind of, no, don't stop. It will give you even a crazier database, like kind of SQL queries and stuff like that. Okay. I think this is actually pretty much it. Right now, you know, I mean, from Dennis's classes, you already know how to create a database file by going to, like, simply going here and creating a new database, and you save it somewhere in your files, right? And you save it somewhere in your project. This is like another take on how that you could like create a database on the fly, and your application just running in runtime. You create a database, and then you can add stuff to it, update records, delete a record, and select everything from there. You could actually have a where clause here, and then you could just simply add with parameters, and then you can put the ID in there. So you would like to select a specific record, the same thing like here, right? It just will be not going to be select all, select with a certain parameter. Now, obviously, Entity Framework is like came out like I don't know when, 2000 and what, 8, 9? I can't remember anymore. Before that, we had Hibernate for .NET, Hibernate for Java. There was actually before it even more. But I remember clearly like we had to write a lot of embedded SQL code at the beginning because we had to write our own object relational mappers. Right now, you have Entity Framework just take care of all of this. It doesn't need to do so. Again, if you are working with certain projects where you need to generate database and generate tables on the fly, then you're gonna you're gonna write this for sure. Does it mean it's gonna be an optimized code? Does it mean it's gonna be a great database code? Obviously not. It will not be optimized, will not be anything, but it will serve the purpose of the project. I mean, WordPress is functioning, right? The maybe other projects similar to WordPress are still as well functioning, so they utilize this. Maybe it's not the fastest website in the world, but it does the job. Any questions so far, by the way? Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna stop recording right there.